Hey everyone, we are back talking about some of the preliminary deck builds for set 10. This time I have 8 decks for you, basically the ones which probably undergone the most significant changes, right? And as you can see right here, we do have one lined up right now, which is the Jeeves, yeah? But yeah, just bear in mind, these are preliminary deck lists. We will be doing more testing with them, and we'll be seeing as the meta evolves and going, just in the next couple of months, right? There will be some huge tournaments because this is tournament season in Japan. And yeah, we'll be definitely seeing some big developments, I think, because there's a lot of hype going into the set. It was so hype that deck log was just dead yesterday. Like, I couldn't build a deck. That's why this video is coming later than normal. But now that we have the decks, let's kind of get started with it. And there's some pretty interesting stuff as well. We'll talk about it later, but the masks things does actually do influence, some kind of deck building ideas, which is nice, right? You have different ways to build decks, which is good. So we'll get to that later. So let's first start off with Jiva. As you might know from the cover art and from the anime, Jiva finally got a countercharger, which is Mirror's Virina. This is basically going to be your main attacker for most of the game, right? You just want to bash with this all the time because it lets you either draw a card or countercharge, and you do want to just restand this because it's like not limited to once per turn, right? Every time it attacks, you can pull it off, and then, yeah, that's great, right? Furthermore, the rest of the deck is pretty solid now, right? I went with full consistency. You can see here we've got the arcs as well, because arcs, when you pull it off, you draw 2, early game aggression. It's very nice. And just let you kind of go through the deck a bit more and hopefully just get more of your pieces. We're also, for the Prayer Dragons as well, we're running this one from D-BT10. This one lets you either grab a Trickstar or a Overdress card, which is basically arcs, for free, right? You only need to discard a card. So this is basically like your 8th copy of Trickstar or arcs. This will let you... You will basically get that card every time. If you think this is too excessive, of course you can change the numbers for this and run other Prayer Dragons that you like. I just like having the 8 Prayer Dragons, being, 8 Prayer Dragon is a good one. There's one that puts like Virina's back into deck and looks at top 5 and grabs that. I think that's a fine addition too. Or you can run Prayer Dragons that like attack more so you can like get more value out of your Jivas. But here is just, yeah, let's go arcs. Let's get the Trickstars in the bin and continue on. It just has like a nice, when it becomes an original dress, you can CB1 and just call another Trickstar out. So, continue comboing from there if you really want to. The other Prayer Dragon is a new one from D-BT10. This is a Soul Blast, and look at top 7 to grab like 2 Virinas and put 1 in hand and 1 into the drop zone. Overall, it's just cool. Like, it's free. Don't require CB, which is the main issue. We don't really use much soul anymore. So yeah, we just Soul Blast 1 and hopefully get a Virina that we need. Hopefully just this one, right? This is the one. In terms of the other Virinas we're running Garo. This is like a free attacker. It does, it's good when your opponent's on 5. It forces some extra cards out of their hand if you want to. But overall, you kind of replace this with other like cross overdress cards that you like. I just went with this one because it requires 0 cost. It literally requires 0 cost. And then basically the entire deck is just very lean, right? It's very lean. CB wise is pretty simple, right? There's 3 cards that require CB. There's Jiva, there's arcs, and then there's this one. But you're probably not using this one as much as the others. It's mainly just arcs in this, and then mirrors will kind of refund that or just give you more cards, and hopefully your hand balloons into like an insane number. They can kind of like tank it up and go with it. I've seen some people run like Expectors and stuff, because if you combo with this card, you can like get the overdress, like the one-off overdress cards that you need. Also, someone running the golden orders. I think that's like not a bad choice. Like, you can minus some of these numbers and run that, and just like you'll draw enough cards eventually that you'll hit one of those orders and it'll be good. Also, people replacing the starter with Trickstar. I don't know how that usually goes. I feel like with the amount of ways you can search Trickstars now, you don't really need to do that. And you could probably even lower the Trickster count from 4 to like 3 if you're running like something like 4 of these. Otherwise, yeah, there's some numbers you can definitely play around with, but this is definitely a starting list that I'd like to go with just to see how the deck functions and where I need to push, right? Where do I need to add extra oomph to the deck? Do I want to add more high roll to this deck because it's not strong enough? Or is it just fine playing super lame and just like a nice solid 4 attack deck and just drawing a bunch of cards and hopefully that's good, right? We'll have to see. That's where testing comes in. Moving on, we have Gandiva. Gandiva is basically the hypest deck coming out of this this set, in my opinion, for a totally new deck as well. This is the first time it has gotten released. Now, I know a lot of people have been trying out different ways to build it. This is my build. I just looked at this deck and go, okay, all these new cards are pretty good, right? So we have these grade 1s. This is a countercharger that binds itself, which is great. This is a card that draws when it binds itself, which is great. Well, it binds itself and draws, which is great because it accelerates Gandiva's game plan. And then, you know, this one is just Counterblast 1 and retire, which is nice. And this one's just your multi-attacker. So basically, all those slots, in my opinion, are pretty much solved. The last few are like this Meteor Flare Dragon, because it's basically your beater, right? If your opponent has like nothing on the board, it just becomes a 20k beater, then plus everything on top of it, which is crazy. And then this also gets rid of Conts and then allows like some like retires to go on. So overall, pretty nice in certain matchups. And then this grade 3 is just like not a great card. But the reason why I added this in is because it doesn't require Counterblast and it helps you accelerate your bind zone. You know, without the Counterblast. So those rare situations that do come up where like you just don't have much damage to work with, this can help you get you out of those situations. Honestly, it's not a great card. It's honestly not a good, amazing card. You wouldn't use this many times, but hey, for those rare situations, it does work out. People have been saying you can run Best Harvest, like the order that like gets you draw a card when you retire something. I don't think it's needed. The biggest problem with this deck is that it is slow, right? It is slow, so you want, like, you don't really have a problem with drawing cards, right? You do draw just enough, I feel like. You could draw more of the Best Harvest, but that just means you're probably gonna deck out more likely than not. And also, like, you have to draw the Harvest and then combo with the retires, and sure, you have a built-in retire with Gandiva, but it's you still have to like draw the combo while your opponent has stuff on the board to retire. That is like another thing. If there's nothing to retire, then the Best Harvest just becomes hyper jank, right? So there's no point. One thing that you can run is probably fronts over draws. I just personally like the draws more, but every time you see a draw, you can usually kind of replace it with a front if you so intend. I do feel like this deck does draw enough. Another consideration I was thinking of is just running Mudokars for extra bulk. Which is legit. I think it's legit. So you can, if you really don't like the 3s, just take them out and put in Mudokars, or just take out more cards and put in Mudokars just for like extra defensive power. But overall, I think this deck is really good. Maybe not tier 1 material. I still think it's too slow against, you know, the big out scaly decks like your Messiahs. Sure, you retire their stuff, but they get crests, right? They just get huge powers. Anyway, you know, Jet will do the same. And decks that can kind of dodge you by not having a board. So Wellstra can kind of do that by not having a board. And you go, sure, if they don't have a board, I just CB1 and draw cards and bind and get power. But still, you're not like crippling them while they're like just playing their game plan and bashing you. So yeah, I think Gandiva, you know, nice tier 2 deck. Very, very easy way for a new player to get into the game, right? They go, what deck do I build? Well, you just build Gandiva. It's a nice traditional retire deck with some new gimmicks. And has some decent scaling. Not the super best scaling, but good enough. So yeah, overall, very solid deck. Very solid deck. Moving on to the dark states, we have Unica here. So here's the new masks stuff, right? So one of the interesting thing with masks now is that you want to understand how you want to build your board in terms of where you want to put your Dragon Tree markers, because there's no way you're spending like 1 CB to get like 5 CB to get like 5 Dragon Tree markers, right? So ideally you go like, hey, what am I restanding, and you know, how much CB do I need to like put Dragon Tree markers there, right? Am I restanding 2 cards? Then I need probably 2 CB to maximize it, right? But for Unica, it is a 4 attack deck, and you basically just restand 1 card and make it giant. So you basically only need 1 Dragon Tree marker, and that's that. The rest of the deck is pretty same-ish, I guess, right? We're running 4 of the OG Unica simply because, what's her name? Like, Baiko, right? Baiko's effect. It's actually pretty good, right? The Baiko is like a retire, and then it gets a +1 drive. So every turn, you really want to use Baiko's act effect in order to just like, you know, get the extra drive. But yeah, you have the rear guard restand, and overall, you run the Dragon Tree Searcher. So this searches for your masks and creates a Dragon Tree marker, and that's pretty much all you need. You just grab this, grab a mask and then set a dragon tree marker up, and you're good to go. And then for your other grade 2s, you just have like value grade 2s in a way. They're not like the best, but they're basically just like 15k, 10k shield grade 2s. You have some from the old deck as well. So this is from D-BT10, and it's basically, yeah, 15k, 10k shield, but this has an additional effect where you can put triggers into your soul. Well, the new one just doesn't. It's just a 15k. But you know, six beaters is pretty good. I still included some clean sweep dragons just because, you know, extra removal is always nice. And then for the new grade 1, we do have this kind of top deck check where, like, if you Soul Blast 3 during turn, you can check top deck and then, you know, leave it there or put it into soul, and then, you know, this card gets 2k. But the key thing is you're increasing your odds of hitting a drive check, and yeah, building more soul. Building more soul is good, right? Because you need a Soul Blast 3. But there are other ways to kind of get soul, like, you know, the grade 2, and then, you know, this grade 1 can get you soul. Yeah, overall, those are the ideal cards. You notice that I don't really run a lot of the cyclers in these new decks, because a lot of the new decks basically just like call cards out during their ride line, or call their ride line out, so there's not really a good usage of the cyclers, but you're gonna see them come up. But yeah, this is just a nice 4-attack deck. I think it's okay. I think it's better than what a lot of people give it credit for. And I guess one thing, like, you have to understand is that with the masks, there's something called like unmasking, or like, I like to call unmasking or like remasking, where like if you want to build soul as well, you can re-ride your old Unica or your old grade 3 and then use your mask in the drop zone and then just kind of ride the new one and still get persona ride. And this also lets you do a bunch of effects, but it's actually going to be more relevant in this next one that's coming up. So this is Drajuled. Right, so Drajuled is basically the hype beast of this entire next set, and you'll see this build is like relatively different compared to like other masks that you're gonna see. This one does not run any mask searchers, because just like the overall value of a mask searcher is basically comes down to, do I want a dragon tree marker or not? And with Drajuled, you really don't need dragon tree markers, because your opponent becomes 1 power, and you're ideally under persona ride, so you're already hitting over like the 2-card guard kind of status. So that's why you just don't need it. Instead, you run like 4 of the mask, and like I've tested the lineup a bit. You basically get it every game, right? I haven't had a game where I don't, you know, get my mask combo off. What is run in this deck? So we're featuring the good old Swirler and Gungaram lineup. This is something that's been popping up in Dark States nowadays, where you just go, hey, you know, how do I make a good turn 3? Well, we just run this guy, Swirler, and then Gungaram, and then Soul Charge and make big power, and then, you know, we can also kind of draw if we really need to. We just like bash your opponent, and good times, right? Good times. For the grade 2s, we just run the Empusa, which is the PR. You know, you have to have this, otherwise this deck just doesn't work in my opinion. And then we run 3 of the Rock Agors, and I am testing out this grade 2 countercharger that we have. I think it's all right. I think it's all right. We just run 1. You're only ever gonna really need 1 in the game. Just like countercharge 1, because the game is either over by then, or you're over, right? But if you just don't like it, just run like a 4th Rock Agor to make it more consistent. And we also run 3 of the Drajuled, just because, you know, it's not a bad card, but, you know, comboing with Mask to get more Soul Charge is pretty good. So, like I was saying, you have to understand one thing is unmasking. Right, so ideally, like, let's say you go second, you just do your like normal mask combo, go straight to mask persona ride, and you're Gucci, right? But especially with Drajuled, what you can do is the turn after, you can re-ride your old mask, not old mask, you can re-ride the old Drajuled, use its combo, right? You know, CB1 and like, you know, Soul Charge 2, and you maybe draw a card, or just build some extra soul if you really need to, and then use the masks again in your drop zone to like pop to ride another mask from your hand, right? So you're going, why, you know, you could just have Persona Road normally. Well, this now you get to use the old skill while still getting Persona Ride, and then that's how you can build like even extra soul, right? It also puts another grade 3 in your soul, and then like, since you're gonna kind of use this guy, like if you don't have the old copy of Drajuled in the drop zone anyway, you're gonna kind of discard it, right? So you might as well just put it into soul or ride it, and then, you know, get some value from it, and then still you can pop it out if you need to from the mask. So that's kind of like a nice, neat little combo you can do. The other plus side is that it puts the mask into soul as well. So yeah, it's like there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. But that is something that I think you're gonna have to learn when you're playing Draguled, right? Especially, it's not gonna come up every single game for the masks, but it is a nice little neat thing that you can do if you're like lacking soul and you have a lot of CB and things like that. But overall, let's see if this is worth the money that you have to pay for in the JP meta. Yeah. Moving on, we have Solarian. So Solarian's kind of interesting. Another new ride line for set 10, completely new. What this guy does is you have to like know what your top card of the deck is. In the battle phase, you choose either trigger, or you either call out trigger unit or normal unit and you reveal it. And if you get it right, you get your front row gets 5k. Your whole field gets 5k for the turn, right? The way I see this is that this is more like a kind of a rush deck, right? It's you build a board, make big powers, and then you go. All right, this does have multi-attack capabilities. I think you can make 4 attacks because this on attack lets you look at the top 2 and call 1 to the rearguard circle, and then just put either discard or like put to the top or bottom of the deck the other card. So yeah, it's basically the whole plan of this deck is you want to stack like a normal unit in the top card of the deck, and then you can, you know, call it out during the battle phase for a Solarian's effect, and then just make that 4th attack. There's a few ways that you can do it. So your ride line calls itself out and allows you to stack a card. Then this grade 3 lets you do that as well. And ideally, you want to attack with this. You put the grade 3 down first, and after it attacks, it can go to soul. And then, you know, it creates an empty slot, so you're not like wasting anything. But yeah, this does let you stack as well. And then, you know, you have a bunch of other cards that you'd like to call. So the grade 1 is actually really good. So you want to stack this guy, or is it a girl? I'm not too sure. But you want to stack this grade 1 on top, and then call it, and it becomes 18k, right? And then 18k boosted by a bunch of stuff. So like this gets boost and becomes a 15k boost, a grade 2. If you call it right, I think if you call a normal unit or reveal a normal unit, right? You know, this becomes 15k with a boost, and then this is also 15k with a boost as well. So overall, like just you hit like that nice 33k number and just bash, right? Just bash. And then the last slots that are dedicated here is this is a new dragon. It's a top deck checker, and if you don't like it, you can put to the bottom, and then if you put to the bottom, you can top deck check again. This will just either help you get to situations that you want, or, you know, if you just really want a trigger, you can get you to a trigger. And then this is just the cycler. So we're only running 3 of this. If you hit it, you hit it. If you don't, it's not a big deal. There's only like 1 soul you can afford anyway. I think you can just soul blast a starter, if I'm correct. Because if you do any more, then you just ruin your ride line, right? But then otherwise, the other key reason why we're running this is its second effect is the counter blast effect, where if you're under Persona Ride, you can look at the top 2 cards and then add 1 to hand and then put the rest at the top or bottom. So it does let you help you stack your card. Most importantly, there is not that many counter blast abilities here. The only thing that counter blast really is your Vanguard. So this does let you counter blast as well, and this gets you at least some pluses to sustain your hand a bit better. There is a counter charge in the deck, so I think the grade 2 is a counter charger, but you only run 1, right? So not too much of a biggie. You counter. I think resources in this deck will basically not be an issue. But overall, this deck's just a very simple deck. You know, just call the top card correct, stack the top card of your deck, call it out, make 4 attacks, and you're good to go. Right, you're good to go. Next we have is the Hexorb Aquamarine. So Hexorb got a half decent buff, right, with this new Aquamarine card. She's pretty good. She's just not bad, right? Her effect is that she's called Hexorb Sorceress as well, so the same as the old grade 3. But if you're under Persona Ride, you know, you get an extra drive, and then your triggers all get plus 10k power as well. So it's just it's similar to the old effect, except she's free, right? And then the last effect is when it attacks. If during the battle, when this card attacks, and you reveal like a trigger during the drive check, or a trigger comes out during your drive check, and it can proc like as many times as you trigger, right? You can soul blast 1 and then stand 1 of your regards. So you do like triple drive, you see 3 triggers, every single one, you soul blast 1 and stand a regard. Ideally, you pretty much just stand 2, right? To get like 5 attacks, which is really nice. And then it just comes down to, how do I stack the top 2 cards in my deck? So they released a new card that is pretty good. This one lets you look at the top card of the deck as long as you're a Vanguard. When this attacks, right? So you'll attack with this first. You can look at the top card of your deck, and then if your Vanguard is standing, you can put that card to the soul. So this helps you build your soul, which is good. And then when you drive check a trigger, this gets 5k. So you want to stand this card. Then you have your old grade 2, which on attack will let you discard a card and look at the top 2 cards of the deck. You can put them on top in any way you like, and then put the rest to the bottom. So if you see 2 triggers, that's nice. Put it all to the top, and then for the turn, this gets 10k. So it works perfectly, right? You only need to be named Hexorb Sorceress, but hey, your Vanguard is just called Hexorb Sorceress, right? So these are the 2 cards that let you do that, and then there's a grade 1 that also lets you do that for a CB1. So you have to boost with this first before your Vanguard attacks. You look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and then put them on top in any way you like, and then put the rest on the bottom in any way you like. So different ways to get you 2 cards. And then you wonder, well, you know, we have a Soul Charger in the grade 2, but you know, your Hexorb Aquamarine now requires like it does feel like you'll use a lot of Soul Blast if you're really good at checking triggers, right? Well, we do have the old grade 2 here that lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck and then, you know, put them on top and then Soul Charge 1. So this does let you just get you a free Soul Charge, which can kind of dig you out of situations, but it's not like you're gonna need a Soul Charge like crazy. So if you see just one of these in the game, I think that's just good enough. And then in terms of like gimmick plays, there is this gimmicky grade 1 where if you have a Hexorb Sorceress and you put this on the Guardian Circle, you can look at the top of the deck and put it on the top or bottom. So you can stack for a heal if you're in trouble, right? Or just stack for a trigger and just kind of make your opponent feel bad. Otherwise, we're still running the old Ride line. Of course, you can change it if you really want to. I do like the old Ride line just because, you know, I like to stack triggers. That's it. That's it. And then we run one of the old Hexorb Sorcerers just because our first effect doesn't require you to be under Persona Ride. Well, the new one does. Like, the new Hexorb doesn't really have any effects if you're not in Persona Ride, except for the last restanding effect. But I think is like not great if you're not under Persona Ride, you know? Like, sure, you get a trigger check, and with this one, you don't get the extra power. So, you know, when the trigger comes out, hey, you know, hey, we can stand something, but it's not strong enough, right? It's not strong enough. So we're still going with the old one, but which can technically hit pretty strong. It can technically still hit pretty strong, based on what it does, right? Make some really annoying columns, and then you go to the grade 3. You can't run the Tortoise to be able to search the Aquamarine because she's not just Hexorb Sorceress in your deck. She becomes it when it's the Vanguard Circle. So that's a bit of a bummer. But yeah, otherwise, that is just how the deck runs. I do have like kind of one gimmick card here that you can kind of replace. This is just when it stands, you can Soul Charge 1, but I feel like this could probably just be her. This could just probably be her. But she's like an extra booster, and like this deck doesn't really run that many boosters. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, it's just nulls and then just a few more of like the normal stuff. Yeah, the normal stuff. Moving on to Stoicheia. So this is Leonor Mask. So again, when it comes down to how we want to build Leonor Mask, again, it comes down to how many Dragon Tree markers do we want. So looking at this, we kind of want 2 Dragon Tree markers because you want 2 in the front so that when you restand your front, you give it gets power, right? So, well, you get to double dip on the power. That's the most important thing, right? That's the most important thing. So to solve that issue, we have just the Mask Searcher. This creates 1 Dragon Tree marker, and that's cool. The thing is, like, the grade 1 Dragon Tree one is just like not that good, right? It's not that good. So yeah, just don't run. I guess you can kind of replace one of these slots for it. It's not that big of a deal, I think. But we're just running this one because it's just easy, right? Use this, search it, get a Dragon Tree marker. Everything is solved, right? Everything is solved. And if you really want a second Dragon Tree marker, like sure, 2 is optimal, but you know, if you don't want to spend the power, that's fine too, right? I think that's fine too. Just getting 1 is good enough. We're running 4 of the original Leonor just because the Mask Leonor skill is very good, right? You're able to call a grade 1 from the drop and then retire one of your opponent's cards. So yeah, that I feel like I want to use that many times a turn. And then in terms of like what you call out, there's just a bunch of ones that are pretty good. This is a 13k booster that's a countercharger. We have Diantha. She's a nice 13k, but she can counterblast 1 and then just like call something, basically anything that you want, right? And then we have the PR here, which soul charges 1. You don't really use that much soul anymore unless you're like aggressively countercharging. But the key thing is she gives power to the front row, so she can give it to... Actually, you do use a bit of soul now, but not as much as before. But yeah, it gives power to the front row, so you can kind of like double dip in a way. Well, or not double dip, but just like give power. You know, give power to just your restanding stuff. The key thing is now we have the grade 2 that this Tide Line Dragon, I think, which will just give, it's basically Soul Blast 1 and then just give this unit and this other unit like 10k power. So, you know, you double dip with that 10k power, you restand it, and that's great. And the only reason why I'm including this 15k grade 1 is it's grade 1, so you can call it out. And it becomes like, I don't know, it's like a 15k grade 1. You can stick it somewhere. It's a cool booster. But yeah, pretty much that. And then we have just like, you know, your old things. You can kind of do the unmasking play as well if you want. Leonor does have a CB1 skill that lets you draw a card. It's not that impactful compared to OG Dredgilled, but that's just how it is. Originally, I was including a lot more CB cards, but I felt like the deck just became cards that CB, and then the grade 1 countercharger, and then the like prize trident or something like that, and didn't really like it. So let's try this way out instead. Yeah. And then lastly, we have Zorga. So with Zorga, I didn't really want to play the Mask Searcher, but in the end, this comes down to, hey, I need 1 Dragon Tree marker for my Keel, right? For my extra attack now. So we should just run this. This does search the mask. It does create that marker, and that's fine, right? With this deck, it's a bit hard to include like stuff in it just because it's so full. It's so full of stuff. I'm running 3 Keel because you ideally want to just see it like, you just need 1. You basically just need 1, and then you just keep on calling it out. In terms of blue Zorgas, I'm running the blue Zorga. The red Zorga basically doesn't do anything. At least the blue Zorga, you can CB1 and then just call a card from the drop zone. Not the greatest of values, but hey, it's still something. And we're not running 4 of him just because like Zorga's effect is nice, but it's not like something you need to use every single turn. You just need you can call a unit out for free, so you can like on those rare turns you can call like double units and then just add an order, but it's not like you're gonna need to do that every single turn, right? In terms of like orders that I'm running 2 of the drive check and then 3 of the call and power. This can change pretty easily, right? This deck feels like it does use, you know, it's using a bit of CB, so I'm thinking like maybe even lowering the count of this, because Zorga Masks already gives like a plus 10k to your board when you do your Alchemagic. So I was thinking like you can run more utility stuff, and then you just passively get a 10k, but like increase your sustain. So that's something to consider. But then the rest is just like 1 spiritual body, one of the top 3, which is similar to spiritual body, and then Malice, right? Twisted Malice to kind of build extra soul countercharge that you need. Again, 3 Keels, 2 of the Headhunter, and 3 of the roaming prison dragon. Again, like weird numbers. There's just like not much space for them. That's like the issue. There's just like not much space. And then in terms of the trigger lineup, we just ran you know, crits and fronts, just because I feel like you just build, once you get that board going, I think you're pretty good, right? So yeah. That's basically all the decks from set 10. Unfortunately, Brandgate didn't get anything super crazy. It got some like nice support cards, but nothing like too major. Just a reminder again, these are all preliminary decks, right? These are just to help you start off with, give you a base to build some of your decks, right? And then for you to kind of build on it from there, because you know, testing is important, right? Testing is important, and I'm sure you're gonna find like better decks from here, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Definitely, I feel like there's going to be a lot of differences in opinions in terms of how people build their masks decks, just because like it's weird ratios and all that. So it'll be very interesting to see. Leave your flames in the comments below, and I will see you all next time. All right, bye.